Hey, welcome back to another episode of Pints with Pals. I'm Jeremy, one of your hosts, and with me is my northernmost hostess.
You took all my words. I'm Mike.
Hi.
And then I was
That's
like,
all.
yeah, pints with pals.
We can start over.
I don't mind. Well, now
Okay,
I
we'll
have
keep
to.
on going then. No, we don't. We don't. It's bloopers, right? This is how podcasts are done, right? You leave all the BS in, so people laugh at you, like, "Oh, they click and listen more," right? I think that's how that
Right?
works.
Yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're out of
Yeah,
here.
exactly. But you get hit that bell, and
Yeah.
so we get notified. I think that's a weird option, right? Like, talked to one of my sons. He's like, "Hey, have you listened to any of our podcasts lately?" He's like, I'm subscribed, but I don't think it's updating. I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's updating." He's like, "Oh, I never hit the bell." That's a
I've
dumb
never
thing.
hit the bell on any of this stuff, but I kind of keep up
No,
with. I click on my subscriptions all the time so that I'm always
yeah,
notified. I'm not always notified, but I'm always like checking it or
at least
whatever.
know what's going
Yeah.
on there, right? So today's episode, as you can see at the title, it's Saison Dupont, or as people say from Michigan, Dupont, because there's a plant up in Saginaw, Michigan. So, not the same company. Just throw it out there right now. So, have you ever had a Saison Dupont or any farmhouse ales you could think of?
I had a sip of this one when we were at Ashley's in Ann Arbor that one time, but that was about it. It
That was about it.
Yeah, I don't think because they're I'm not a well, like I said in previous episodes, Belgian style beers,
Mhm.
the yeast or however they're doing it or weedy will make me turn redder than I currently am. So that's kind of a that's kind of a sticking subject for me. So I try and stay away from them. It's not that I
Right.
don't like them. It's just that I tend not to have
The
yeah,
consequence.
yeah.
I had a friend of mine. She would, every time she consumed any type of alcohol, her from her throat down would just turn beet red, which I'm sure she was probably just allergic to it. This
Yeah.
to be fair. So, like I said, Saison Dupont is a farmhouse ale. So, kind of, what does that even mean? From what I always describe to people, it's just a funky style kind of beer. They use wild yeast for the most part, so just whatever's kind of either floating in the air or whatever they can cultivate from wherever. And I think it's pretty interesting because you get some crazy flavors. Some people will have like unripened bitter tart strawberry flavor to a first some people say hay, sometimes they'll say it tastes earthy, which to me just like grass or leafy or something like that. Some will even say it's slightly skunky. I don't think I've had one of those quite yet. Every time I think of skunky beers, I always think of like maybe like a Heineken or Corona or some, one of those two. Just pops in my head.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Heineken is one of the skunkiest beers I've ever had.
Yeah,
Um, it's just like I thought it was bad. It's like, oh, I'll try another one. I was like, oh, this is bad too. Like I didn't understand it until like I talked to somebody. I'm like, this this beer tastes like somebody was smoking like marijuana while they were brewing it to me. I was like, I don't understand why this tastes this way. Um,
right.
but yeah,
Well, I'm excited. I want to go
I
ahead.
was gonna say it reminds me of like honey in that way, like
Mm,
where
okay.
the bees pollinate different things. Like you have
Mhm.
like in like France or whatever, you would have like the pollen from like the lavender. So your honey tastes a lot like lavender. And then in the city, it's like the bees are only on like rooftops. So like you have like whatever gardens people have in their rooftop. So like a lot of
Mhm.
times they end up being like vegetable, like the yeast from the vegetables and stuff like that. So it's kind of not yeast, the pollen from the vegetable plants. So that's what it reminded me of when you had said that. Um,
Mhm.
and it freaks me out. Um, to say the least. It like the idea of it just being open air fermentation is somewhat creepy to me. I don't know.
It is what it is. But since you brought the whole honey thing, I think it's interesting, kind of a fun little fact that if you have bad allergies, if you can get local honey in your area, that may help combat some of your allergy problems.
Hmm.
Because they're already taking those those pollens and something just like that that's bothering you, and you can mix it in like hot tea or whatever, and it's a neat little remedy that you could try. I'm excited. I can't wait to crack this sucker open.
Alrighty. Without
Can't
further
wait.
ado,
I'm gonna try to get the little.
let's.
Oh,
Oh, I heard it.
baby! All right.
I don't know if mine ever comes through the thing. Ooh.
Oh, I did. I heard it.
Was I supposed to stir this one a little bit?
I don't think so. I never do. I just drink them.
Looks like it's got a little bit of a cake on the bottom of it. I got myself a
Oh,
new glass from my former
yeah, there's a little bit
college.
of it. Yeah, it's mine. It's hazy. I gotta
This probably isn't
focus
going
on
to be
that.
the best glass because it's double walled. I just wanted it to be cold longer.
I'm curious what notes you get. Um,
Yeah, I
I
guess these
had,
could. Ooh, that last bit was real dark.
yep. So I did have Casey notes.
Ew.
Oh, that's chunky for sure. Yeah. So that's a yeast boy.
Um, that's a real weird smell because the problem is you can't see it, but there's like a dark spot of the yeast on the thing, and that's all I think I can smell is the yeast packet. Not packet. What's the cake?
Yeah, yeast. Yeah. So I can give you what I get, right? So I get like slight banana, maybe a little bit of clove. Not quite like a heavy, like a heavy is really strong banana and clove. Maybe a little bready,
Yeah,
like wet
weird.
bread,
It's
like
like all
dough.
over the place, like the smell
You
wise.
know, some people have reported like pear, white grape, apricot. I don't know if you get any of those. Again, because I think smell and taste are very subjective, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It tastes better than I thought it would. Um,
Right.
it's
It's just
cleaner. It's like fresher.
crisp.
It's
It's
got
very
a
crisp. Yeah.
yeah, it's got a crispness to it that's
Yep.
not. It's not as heavy as like a normal Belgian white or a wheat ale or whatever. It's
Nope.
a um
Yep. It's dry on top of it.
yeah.
Now I've even like I've read somewhere that you may even get like sugared grapefruit. I've never tasted that out of these ever. But I definitely get like a little bit of like citrus, aftertaste. We kind of get that orange peel, lemon rind kind of flavor, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely get that on the back end for sure. I think that there's quite a bit of flavor to it, um,
Oh yeah.
more so than I was expecting. Um,
And when I say funky, like I don't mean like as like a funk like cheese or something like that. It's hard to describe because there's just so many different things going on. It's just to me, it's just funky.
right,
That's
it's
probably not the
not.
best way to
It's like
describe
an unplanned, like an
it. Yeah,
unplannedness.
yeah. Um. So let's see. I already covered the yeast part of it. Is so these are typically brewed like during like the winter months and stuff like that, and usually cracked open during the spring months. Just I don't know if there's a significance to it, which kind of makes sense if there is, because these are nice and they're light body, they're easy to drink, they're dry,
I wonder
smell
if
great.
they do it in the winter so that they're not getting a ton of pollen and stuff while they're brewing it.
Maybe.
So it would
Oh,
make like sense to then have like it's definitely a different smell. It's weird because it's not definitely get the bread, like a little bit of bread.
Brendan's, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like it would be like an almost like a sweet bread of some sort, like maybe an apple.
Yeah,
It's I feel like it's
it's
changing
looking
too.
weird. And it may over time too as it warms up, and because they're these ones aren't really that highly carbonated. So some I've had are super highly carbonated, and they're just like, I think that as they gas out or whatever the term is, I think it's the smell changes on top of that as well. But yeah, this company's been brewing beer, from what I read, since like 1920 or something like that. His name was Alfred Dupont. Purchased the company as a gift for his son, Louise, and then they just been brewing. And I feel so bad because I'm gonna bastardize his name if you're already mad at me, but I'll say it's called Tropes, I guess, in Belgium.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, they've been brewing it for quite a while. Let's see if I was
It's this way.
anything. Yeah. It says top fermented ales with secondary fermentation in bottle. Oh, that explains why it's such a thick layer of yeast at the bottom. So they fermented once, and then they just transfer everything into a bottle for the most part, and then just ferments. So bottle conditions basically.
It is 6.5 ABV, which is weird because if they're
Yeah.
letting it brew again in the bottle, you would think that they wouldn't be able to. I guess I could take it later, but it seems like they wouldn't be able to tell. Well, I guess that's just bottle conditioning then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
it's
bottle
not really.
condition.
It's like it's semi-fermenting. It's just basically taking whatever the carbonation is, or whatever carbonation they were expecting it to be, and adding it to it, kind of a thing. So that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Very so. Um. So some other similar beers I come across that I've had only a couple of these. One is Boulevard Brewing Tank 7. That was just a crazy name. Which Boulevard definitely makes some pretty good beers. Blackberry Brewery, which I think it's out of Virginia. I have to double check, but they have one called Fence Line. Yazoo is a brew Saison Du Bois with a Bois. I think is how you say it. And the other one is Allagash Shiro or Shiro Delight. Those are like the other ones are other saisons I've had, but they don't taste nothing like this. They all
I
have
have
no,
not heard of any one of those beers.
yeah.
So how did
Boulevard you should get up there. The other ones I'm not sure about.
so how did you ever find out about this beer? Is it just something that
Oh,
you've stumbled across?
yeah. So I was at my local homebrew store, and they have aisles of like regional beers. So they have one which is like this
The
is all
home
from
brew store
Germany.
or a
No, this is just a beer store.
okay.
Yeah. So I was going through and I would like every couple weeks I like to build myself like a crazy 6 pack, and I was like, "Ooh, Saison Dupont." I've heard of it. I've never tried it. And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try this." And I tried it. So this is really good. And then joining the homebrew clubs, there's a few brew people there that love making saisons, and theirs are totally different. Again, they taste nothing like this at all. The one tried to capture yeast in their own yard, and it brewed with that. And it turned out really, really good.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a unique style. I think just because there's so many different ways to go about it, and there's so many different flavors and notes and characters that you can get from it. Like it's really hard to mess up, right? Like you can just make it and like, hey, I have a saison here, and then just say these are ingredients that I used. And you're like, oh, okay, I get that. But I also feel like you can do that with certain types of like New England IPAs or hazy IPAs or whatever you want to call them. Make something really kind of crazy and out there, and it still turn out really, really good.
So you would you be able to do this to any style of beer? Because this is specifically Belgian style. But would you be able to do like an open fermentation of like any different kind of beer? Do you know?
That 100% sure of. If you were to enter it into competitions and stuff like that, if you don't follow like certain guidelines, it may not be um, the right style. So let's say a lager, for example. Lagers usually make 50 degrees or colder or around 50 degrees and it's bottom fermented. So you couldn't do open fermentation. You could do top fermentation with the lager, just wouldn't turn out, or Cloche or Pilsner or any of those ones.
It wouldn't
So
turn out,
they'll,
or it would just be a different beer.
it would just be a different beer
Hmm.
because like the yeast profile would be different. No, you could probably use, let me back up. So a lager, you usually don't use too many different grains. And the few saisons I've looked at, you use about 4 to 5 different grains, depending on what you're going for.
Yeah, that's
But
weird.
I definitely enjoy these saisons. I think they're really good. I think they're fine even at somewhat room temperature.
Yeah, I think
It's good
that
stuff.
I've been scared of it. So like, you know how like when you think of something long enough and it just kind of sounds gross that you
Hmm.
kind of like you kind of don't really know what to expect. So like you're going into something like this is going to be terrible, and then if it's not as terrible as you're expecting, then it's better than terrible, if that makes any sense. It's like
Right.
going into a movie. Like you have two different ways of looking at it. You can go into a movie and be like, this is going to be the worst movie I've seen all year, and then if it's just okay, then you're like, wow, that movie was great. But then if somebody's told you it was an awesome movie, an awesome movie, an awesome movie, and then you go into it and it's just okay, then it was the worst movie you've seen all year. So
Right. Yeah.
the same exact movie in two different perspectives. It's kind of like the same thing with like when you go outside in the summertime and it drops down to 50 degrees, it's cold. When you go out in the wintertime and it drops down to 50 or goes up to 50
Warms up.
degrees, it feels warm.
Warm.
So it's like you go from putting shorts on to taking shorts off or putting on pants or whatever. But yeah, I think that I was
So
super scared of it. So it's actually pretty good.
I think this pairs really well with like Mexican food, and I enjoy it with like probably anything Mexican. Honestly, I've had there's a food truck that comes up to one of the homebrew clubs that I belong to, and like they have some saisons there, and I'll just it's just something about this funky flavors in this with some Mexican food. It's just a very I don't know. It's just delicious together. So maybe you should try that one day.
So the beer flavor. So the flavor of the week technically is Saison, not Saison Dupont. The actual Dupont is just the brand.
Company,
Okay.
yeah, or family company, whatever you call it.
Yeah, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, so like some people would just say it's just farmhouse ale. Whether you're talking about like they'll saison the styles and stuff like that. I've heard a few people argue about it though too. I kind of stay away from that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it's a good one. I wish we would have bought another one to compare it with. I know we brought this up in a couple of other episodes. We need to at least have a couple different ones with that we can compare and contrast. But I think this would be such a far out there one. It'd be really interesting to see what we both get.
Yeah.
Like, especially if we get two totally separate ones. Like let's say I got like the Allagash and you got like the Boulevard. Like they could be two totally different beasts, which I know they would be.
Yeah, for sure. So go ahead.
Oh, you're fine.
I was going to ask you about the homebrew version.
I just scrolled down to that. So this is what I came up with. I've read a few. I actually have this in my to make list. So I'm gonna go by poundage. I really should just go by percentages because that's a lot easier, I think, for people to understand. But I'm gonna go by poundage again. So I would use 8 pounds of like Pilsner malt. Pilsner malt will give you the like your base sugars. It would give you your toasty biscuit notes. And then I would use Vienna malt, which would help with like a nice smooth mouthfeel, which I think this has to it. It's only about a pound of that, and I'll use 8 ounces of wheat malt just to kind of give it more of a bready. It's only 8 ounces, so it's not going to add a whole lot of character, but it's going to have like a light straw color, which this might be considered a light straw. I mean, it might be a little darker actually than light straw. I feel like that's more of like a dull orange.
They said that
Something.
this is a blonde in color
Blonde
with
in
a
color?
big
Sure.
rocky head. Dry and refreshing.
Oh yeah, very.
Great with all grilled foods. That's a weird thing to
Yes.
put on your bottle, but it makes sense, I guess.
There
It's
you
kind of
go.
like saying it's a spring beer. Sorry.
Yep.
You're
Oh no, you're fine. No, it's a big deal. Ain't nobody gonna get mad at us, I don't think. 2 ounces of Care Munich malt. Again, that's just more for like color. It adds like a little bit of caramel, but I don't think you pick up a whole lot. There's more color to it. And then I struggled with hop selections, so I picked Flugel, which would give you the woody, earthy, vegetable matter kind of flavors to it, and then I would go with Willamette, would give you like woody, spicy. And then for yeast,
So what is
I
spicy? Like, what do you mean by spicy?
I feel like this has like a slight spice to it. It's
Yeah.
not strong. It doesn't hurt, but it's like you notice there's just something there. And the best way to describe it is like spicy. I mean, do you get the same as well? Or
Yeah, kind of. I
no?
get like not spicy in like the hot necessarily, but spicy in like I can taste something that isn't a normal beer additive.
Right. But for yeast, I would use the Safal yeast, the BE 134 Belgian Saison dry yeast. But if not, you guys could use the Y yeast 3724 Belgian yeast. Again, I just want to save money. I don't feel like spending $13 on it.
So you still have to start it with yeast and then you just let it ferment open air for the rest of the time and then it just gets whatever.
I probably want it. I would. because I'm not trying to get any wild yeast into it. All the wild yeast are already cultivated in these yeast packets for
Okay.
the most part. Just use that. And
So would
then
that still be considered then a
Saison.
saison if you are brewing it at home under your bottle or whatever your conditions are, just
Right.
because you have picked some
Good
sort of
question.
yeast?
That's a good question. I think it's a little beyond my knowledge. I would have to ask somebody a little more seasoned than me, for sure. Excuse me.
It's making me very
Oh,
burpy. This is
yes,
like
it's
extra burpy.
carbonated.
Yeah.
Then from there, I would mash at 150 degrees for 60 minutes and boil for 60 minutes. That's really about it. I wouldn't do nothing else to it. And just let it ferment probably a couple weeks. I
So
did
what's
write
the
down a couple
average?
notes.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. So I had a couple of notes. Um, you could switch the Vienna for Munich malt if you wanted more color, flavor, and maltiness. 'Cause they're both kind of in the same family from what I've read. But I just go with Vienna because I think it'd be a little lighter flavor overall. I don't want it too strong. What were we gonna ask?
Um, how long does like a normal beer take to ferment? Like, I guess,
So
would you have any
that's a good
ideas
question.
on like if you have more, like, is the higher alcohol beer going to take a lot longer to ferment than like a lower alcohol beer?
The rule of thumb I would say yes. Um, so that's why you would draw a bunch of samples throughout the whole fermentation process. I feel like the bulk of my lighter beers take on average about 2 weeks and they're done. I usually will draw a sample of 2 weeks. I'll hit my target. I'm done. I'll either bottle them or I'll keg them. I did um, a quasi barrel aged beer. I use like bourbon, vanilla bourbon with coconuts and stuff like that, and that probably fermented well over a month, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then like it stalled on me, so I had to add champagne yeast to it to kick it back up again. Um, but that was still pretty hot though for a while. Um, the last one I had was back in February with you, and it was actually a lot more mellow than what it was when I first tried in December. December it was like all you could taste alcohol.
I feel like we probably should do another one of those.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That would be a fun episode. And our third, I can get him a bottle too, and he can try it at his
Ooh,
if he ever
yeah,
gets over. So that'd be
yeah,
fun. I think that there is a lot of skill involved in brewing beer that I just lack. Patience. And I think patience is mainly the thing that I'm missing when it comes to like me being able to brew beer. So like I kind of wish that um, that we lived closer together, obviously, but I think that that would be fun to do a pints with pale brew day. So like maybe if we're all together at some point and kind of brew something, but then we have to pick what we're gonna brew. I feel like
well,
I know what I would want to do, and it would be closer to that beer that you just described. But I mean, we could also potentially do a couple of different ones and then try them later. But I think that that's a fun hobby to have.
yeah. We could always do like split batches as well too if we had enough kegs or for fermentation vessels or whatever. So that way you could take half of it with you, and I leave half here, and we'll just see how they turn out. You
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
That'd be fun.
I don't know how the car ride would handle that.
Oh, so I think a keg would probably be better than just like a fermentation bucket like I usually use.
Yeah, the bottom of that is extremely heavy and
Sludgy.
yeah. It's still tasty though. I I'm not getting the same reaction. Or I don't feel like it. Like ask me in like another hour or whatever, but
Right.
like I feel like it's not quite as strong a reaction as like a Belgian like wheat ale or white. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you think your wife would enjoy something like this?
She tried it at in that day, and I don't think she did. I think
Okay.
it's a little bit too funky for her.
Mhm.
Funky. But I think that I enjoy it. I would order it on. Wait, dude.
On
So
tap.
this will never be on tap because
I don't
what you
think so. I
had
think it's
read.
only.
said it was
think
always bottle
it's
conditioned.
bottled, yeah.
Yeah.
So you may be finding a bottle of it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would say like, yeah, I mean, you like to grill, so maybe when the summer comes around and you're out there, maybe just have one laying around and try it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
See,
would definitely get
see how
another
it goes.
one. And I think that I think it would be fun to like go back and watch some of these episodes, us, and then like take some of our favorites. We should
Mhm.
probably rate them too. That would be something that we could do.
Ooh,
But I feel like we need
that's
more. I need more samples before I could like start rating something.
well, we can always start with the simple rating, like kind of like you just said, like, would you try this again? And just
Yeah.
be yes or no. And
Yep.
you already said yes, you would. So
Hmm.
that's a positive. And then as time goes on, you drink some more, be like, okay, I'll or had other saisons and be like, well, I think this one because I like these character notes better than this one. Then you can actually give it a point scale if you wanted to.
Right. Yeah, I think that that would be. I think that's a good thing. Would I drink it again? Yes.
Yeah.
Um, some of the other stuff. I mean, I haven't really had anything that I wouldn't drink again yet on our 7 or 8 podcasts that we've done. So
Oh, we'll get there.
yeah, yeah, for
So I'm gonna get
sure.
there too. I'm definitely going to get on my comfort zone on certain stuff. Like I guess I have sours are going to be the ones that be hard for me to do, but I'll do them.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, I think that this is gonna push my comfort zone. I keep saying that, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what you don't know, and then once you experience something, you can really kind of allow yourself to say yes or no. But if you haven't started that way, then you don't know when you're gonna be there. Like, so I'm just like,
Yeah,
I
for
like
sure.
the idea of it, and I'm I'm definitely liking these differences in beers for sure.
Yeah, especially if going from like the big heavy beers that you normally drink or super light beers that you normally drink. Now you're gonna get a broad spectrum going on.
Oh, so I over the weekend I went to a diaper party which I'd never been to before, and the guy that I like, the guys whose party it was, him and all his friends are like the bra guys, like they're built in like buff kind of people, so they only drink Michelob Ultra. And I tried that and I was like, I don't hate this. Like
It's not bad.
I think I'm gonna have to try it and see if it, like, because the reason I drink Bud Light is because of they use rice for some of the sugars, so I think that that kind of pulls out a little bit of the like wheat or gluten that I would normally be allergic to. So I feel like I don't get as much I don't get as hungover from it, and then I don't get as drunk from it either. But for the most part, I can drink a bunch of it. So I may have to try that and see if that can be switched out. The problem I feel with Bud Light, which is my light beer of choice, is that it's divisive. Like, the people that drink Miller Lite will not drink Bud Light. The people that drink Bud Light will not drink Miller Lite. But the people that drink like Bud Light will potentially drink a Coors Light or a Michelob Ultra. So it's like when you get a keg to try and make it happy, you don't really want to get any beer that's going to be like,
Right.
no, I'm never going to drink this kind of a thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to, getting my kegerator or Keyser or whatever it is up and running so that I can have a beer on tap. Um, and then potentially,
Now,
if I start brewing stuff, it'd be fun too.
yeah, Michelob Light is definitely or ultra light, whatever the heck it's called. It's definitely a good summer beer. It's the one that I like if I have a party, which I don't have parties much anymore. When I used to have parties or even get-togethers, like that would be the beer I drink all day long. Because like if you take your time, you won't get drunk. It has very low calories. It's super light. It's clean. It's easy
Yeah, there
drinking.
was no
Like
the skunkiness, because I feel like
kind
I
of sweet.
noticed the
Kind of light.
skunkiness of in a lot of other beers. Um, at least in like, because like Coors Light's good too, but it's not as like, it's not as refreshing. I feel like it reminds
Right.
me of the Tigers game, so like I enjoyed that part of it, but otherwise it's not as refreshing.
Right. Well, on that note, I think that's all I have to say about this delicious beverage.
That last little bit was chewy. Um, but
Done.
all right.
Excuse me.
Don't forget to have a pint with your pals.
Yes.
And like, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Exactly. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Drink responsibly.
Bye.